Dr. Laura Freund. In case you didn't know, in case this is your first time, I have my PhD in Human Development and Family Studies with a specialization in couple and family therapy. I am a peaceful parenting coach and respectful relationship coach, and I give parents tools and support for setting boundaries so that their needs can be met and they can approach parenting and their relationships with a full cup. I empower parents to let go of expectations and perfectionism and stop being weighed down by comparison and find freedom and joy so they can act with confidence, follow their hearts without second guessing themselves, and unabashedly enjoy their lives. I teach parents to tap into vulnerability, experience self-exploration, and set healthy boundaries for themselves so that they can show up in their lives and in their relationships with open-hearted authenticity and balance. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the power of acceptance and how it can help you reduce your own level of suffering, tune into your true emotions, and respond to a situation from a place that is true to your core beliefs and your highest values. I'm covering this topic on the self pillar of my model of balanced parenting. The other pillars are parenting and relationships, but this topic applies kind of across all of those settings, so I'm putting it in there. So when I was creating this talk, I came across a quote that I've heard for a long time, and it's very famous, by Carl Jung, or Jung, however you say his last name. I think it differs depending on where you are in the world. But what you resist persists. And I feel very curious to know if anybody here has experienced that process of resistance, limiting us and keeping something going by resisting it. So one of the things, though, that I want to start with when it comes to acceptance is what acceptance is not. So acceptance does a few really powerful things for us, but there are a few things that it isn't, and we need to be clear about that. So acceptance isn't resignation. You don't, when we talk about accepting, we're not talking about settling. We're not talking about condoning harmful behaviors or hurtful behaviors and saying that those things are okay. So we're not labeling things that maybe are negative as okay. We are simply recognizing that this is what is happening right now. And you don't have to like something that's happening to you or happening in front of you in order to accept it. And you can even seek to change something even as you are in the process of accepting it. As many of you may know, I was in a car accident when I was pregnant with my second daughter, and as a result, I was in pain for, daily consistent pain for more than 2 years. And at first, I spent a lot of time resisting my condition. I was really mad about it. I was bitter. I hated my pain. I hated the car accident, and I put a lot of energy and focus into this thing that I saw as being really, really negative in my life. And try as I might, when I was stuck in that place of really resisting it, I wasn't getting any better, despite doing lots of the things that I needed to be doing. But also the resistance caused me to not do what I needed to do to get better. It almost led to this place of resignation because I was so focused on how bad it was. I was focusing on it so much, and pain was such a constant presence in my life. And once I came to a place of acceptance, there really was this huge shift. I changed my self-talk. I immediately stopped paying so much attention to my pain. And as a result, I stopped noticing it as much. This made it easier to go back to the things that brought me joy. I had a different attitude about my physical therapy that I needed to do. I treated myself with more compassion and grace. And the pain was still there. It didn't go away, but I wasn't being held hostage by it anymore. I think I know that that's an extreme statement, but if you've experienced chronic pain or maybe chronic suffering of some kind, you probably haven't experienced that sense of being held hostage by it, and acceptance allowed me to escape it. And when I started saying to myself, this is where I am right now. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did, and now it's time to keep moving forward. things got a lot better for me. I don't know if that resonates with any of you who are watching, but if it does, let me know. And so when I first started practicing this, the phrase, it is what it is, came up a lot. And I really didn't like that phrase. As a therapist, and that's a core piece of my identity, it seemed really dismissive, that phrase did. But as I got better and better at accepting, I realized that when I'm accepting things, that doesn't mean I have to give anything up in order to accept it. I didn't have to like my pain. I didn't have to feel grateful for my accident. Eventually I have come to a place of gratitude because it's allowed me to, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. It's allowed me to shift things in my life and be more true to myself and live in a way that's more aligned with my deepest values. And that's a good thing. But it doesn't mean I would wish that pain on anyone else, or that I wish I could have learned that lesson in a different way. But I didn't. This is the lesson that life handed me. And you can see that I still feel sad about it. And that's okay. That sadness tells me that there's still stuff to work through. And it's just where I am right now. And it's okay. I don't have to resist that. I don't have to suck it up and push it down, Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what acceptance isn't. And now I want to talk a little bit about what it is and how we can put it into practice in our daily lives. So when you choose to view a situation through a lens of acceptance, you are enabled and empowered to see life as it truly is. Just the bare facts of it. She is angry. There is water on the floor. My husband is, having a tense voice when he talks to me. I am tired. And essentially what it allows you to do is focus on observations as opposed to judgments. And this can be really helpful in the way that we interact with our environment and with the people in our lives, the people that we love. And so in each of these situations, focusing on those observations is a wonderful thing. It allows us to come from a place that's less emotionally tied to things and more aligned with who we are. So if we think about the difference between observations and judgments, I've talked about this before, but the example of, there are clothes on the floor is an observation. We can see it. I could take a picture of it. My husband is a messy slob, on the other hand, is a judgment. And there's some inherent resistance to that. There's a sense of wishing that my husband was different in that. And that in and of itself is resistance. And so when we are able to let go of that resistance and accept the fact that there are clothes on the floor, and now what are we going to do about the clothes on the floor, we're able to move forward and problem solve from a different place where we're not coming from a place of judgment. And when you start to do this, you will realize that you're not so emotionally tied to it. And this lets you respond in a way that isn't defensive and is more true to who you are and your highest self. It also allows you to feel your feelings without being your feelings. So you can use your feelings as a touchstone, as a guide. They can let you know what's going on, but you don't have to be them. You don't have to let them consume you, and you don't have to let them drive your actions. The other piece of this is that acceptance allows you to notice, describe, and acknowledge. And we can use this with ourselves, with our children, with our partners, with our friends and relations that we love. And it allows us to be, again, less reactive and less in it. It allows us to step back. And it also allows us to let go of what should be happening and accept what is happening. So how many times have you said or wanted to say, maybe you were able to stop yourself, things like, you should be in bed right now, or these toys should have been picked up before dinner, or God, I should have stayed calm and talked calmly and quietly. Do we say those things to ourselves and to our family and to our partners? Yes, right? We get stuck in this place of should. And when we are stuck in there, when we're focusing on what should be happening, we are resisting what is happening. And we stop ourselves from being able to access the skills we need to generate compassion and empathetic responses and solutions that serve us. Tiffany says all day, every day. Yes, being stuck in should is a great way to continue suffering. Okay, and so if we can get should out of our vocabulary, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to how we view ourselves, how we treat and talk to ourselves, and how we treat and talk to our partners, it would be really helpful. So by accepting what is happening in front of us, realizing that it's happening in front of us, not inside of us or to us, tuning into our emotions about it, we can listen to these emotions, return to our highest values, and generate a solution from those values rather than generating solutions from places where we are triggered and defensive and overwhelmed. So I wonder what would happen if we take these kind of phrases that I said before, if we shifted them and looked at these situations through a lens of acceptance. The language changes. And so instead of saying, you should have been in bed by now, you can say, oh, you're not in bed. Let's get you there. Or instead of saying, these toys should have been picked up before dinner, you can say, oops, the toys aren't picked up. Let's get them picked up together. Let's do it together. Or instead of saying, God, I shouldn't have yelled. I should have been calm. Why can't I be better? Instead, you can come to a place of, I yelled. Okay, I yelled. Now I can apologize and I can forgive myself and I can move on and I can do better next time. And so when we stop resisting, a whole bunch of new possibilities open up and we are able to move toward the goals or towards the problem solving that really honors who we truly are and our highest goals for ourselves and our lives and our families. I do want to, however, be abundantly clear that there are certain things that a human being should never have to accept, such as abuse or oppression. And so I want to kind of circle back to this idea that this is not resignation. This is not condoning negative things. Acceptance can help you move toward solutions in these situations that are extremely negative and harmful to us. But again, this isn't a place where you are resigning yourself to suffering or condoning abusive behaviors. In these cases, acceptance looks like, this is an unhealthy environment for me. It isn't changing. What is my next step? It allows you to step back and view the forest for the trees. Sometimes when we are stuck in resisting, we get so focused and so honed in on the problem, we can't see the other things that are happening, and it makes it really hard to generate good solutions. So if you have a boss, for example, who's verbally abusive, you don't just accept that you're stuck with this boss. You accept that they are abusive, and then you start doing what you need to do to protect yourself, like looking for a new job or starting a process with human resources. You should absolutely protect yourself and seek to change situations that need to change for you to be safe and healthy. The accepting part is the part where you don't resist where you are. You accept where you are, and then you start making a plan to move forward. Let's see, Tiffany says, I read once that the term acceptance can be framed as acknowledgement. Yes, yeah, I think that, acknowledgement, yes, acknowledgement is a huge piece of acceptance. And if that is using the word acknowledgement, it feels healthier to you, because I do think acceptance, sometimes people balk at it because it feels as if they have to condone it or they have to be resigned to what's happening. So yes, if acknowledgement is a word that works better for you, then absolutely use that. Okay, and so I want to take a second to see if there's any questions on this or any situations that maybe you are experiencing that you might need some help with, that we can kind of help you move towards acceptance on. Acceptance is something that has worked really, really well for me in terms of navigating holidays. Like, for example, this Thanksgiving, I hosted the meal at my house, and I had a plan, and I had all of these things that I wanted to prepare. And when it came time to sit down for dinner, I realized that I never made the deviled eggs that I wanted to make, that the ingredients were ready in the fridge and they just didn't get made. And in the past, I would have been really hard on myself about that. I would have had almost a sense of, I need to rush and do it right now. I need to make it really fast, or I will have failed Thanksgiving, or that I am not good enough. I'm not a good enough host, all of these negative stories. And with a practice of acceptance, instead I was able to say, I guess we're not having deviled eggs. And I let it go. And it was so much easier. And it didn't cause any suffering. When in the past, my anxiety and my feelings of failure would have not only caused suffering for myself, and my sister is watching, so she can probably attest to this, it would have caused suffering for most of my family too, and because I would have been short-tempered and grumpy with everybody. And the acceptance allows me to be myself. And my true self, my core self, the self that I have worked hard to heal and be able to be present with, right? Okay, so I do have a poem I want to share with you. This is a poem by Steve Taylor, who is a psychologist and an author, and it illustrates what we've been discussing pretty well. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So I'm going to read it. Now, I haven't ever read a poem in public before, so bear with me, but hopefully it'll go okay. Okay. Emptiness can be a bleak vacuum, cold and hostile, dark with danger. Or emptiness can be a radiant spaciousness, warm and welcoming, soft with stillness. And the only difference between them is acceptance. A task can seem tedious, a chore to rush through as quickly as you can, or any task may seem rewarding, a process to relish with an attentive mind that reveals more richness the more present you become, and the only difference between them is acceptance. Pain may seem unbearable, searing through you from a sharp, concentrated point, so that you have no choice but to resist, to try to escape, or to push the pain away. Or pain can be a sensation which you can move towards and merge with, which no longer has a center and dissipates and spreads through your being until it becomes soft and numb and no longer pain at all. And the only difference between them is acceptance. Trauma and turmoil can break you down to nothing, destroy the identity you spent your whole life building up, like an earthquake that leaves you in ruins. Or trauma and turmoil can transform you, break open new depths and heights of you, give rise to a greater structure, a miraculous new self. And the only difference between them is acceptance. Life can be frustrating and full of obstacles, with desires for a different life constantly disturbing your mind. Or life can be fulfilling, full of opportunities, a constant flow of gratitude for the gifts that you have. And the only difference between them is acceptance. It's a powerful poem to me. It's something that I actually use and meditate on. And I can share an audio file of it if you'd like, where the author is reading it. But it's really powerful, this idea that all of these things that we resist in our lives can offer us a new perspective if we simply stop resisting them. When we are so honed in and focused on the negative aspects of what's happening in front of us, and when we are judging it and focused in on how it should be, we limit ourselves, when we limit our experience of our life. And this is not just about parenting. This isn't just about like when our child is having a temper tantrum in front of us or a meltdown in front of us, we can use acceptance then. This is happening. Like, we're in Target and this is happening right now. Okay, so what do I do? It's not just that. It's when your partner comes home and is stomping around the kitchen being grumpy with your kids and with you, you can come to a place of, wow, he must have had a bad day. He must be really suffering. What can I do here? It's not okay to speak to me that way. To speak to me that way, you must be really hurting. How can I help? Rather than coming from a place of, don't you dare talk to me that way. You shouldn't talk to me that way. You see the difference? The situation is exactly the same. Nothing's changed, and you're still setting a boundary, but the boundary comes from a different place, a place that is more true to your core self and more true to the goals that you've set for your family and for your life, if that makes sense. There's so much about acceptance that really is powerful in our lives, and it speaks to unconditional love too. So if we can look at our kids and say, sometimes you hit me. Sometimes your emotions are too big for your body and they come out as kicks and hits. And I love you anyway. I accept you anyway. Or with our parents, our mothers-in-law or father-in-laws who are maybe even a little mean to us at times. But if we can say, like, I see you're suffering. I see that you are suffering and that your suffering doesn't have to be my suffering. And I can accept this. Or people who are just difficult in our lives, like that one person at your office who makes your life a little bit more miserable. Often that person is making your life miserable not because of who they are, but because you're resisting it. And instead of, if you could just offer them acceptance and say, oh, this is who you are. Okay. And then move on and maybe make some changes and don't sit next to them at lunch at the break table. But, there's possibilities there that once we let go of resistance, they open up for us. Any other? Oh, Erin says, loved it. It was heavy for me today, but much needed. Yes, this is a little heavy, and it's, it can be hard to come from a place where you are in a place of resistance because you almost feel dependent on it. I need this resistance. I need to hold on to this. I need to be able to say, life is so hard for me right now, because it allows us to justify things. But an acceptance does take that away from us a little bit, but that doesn't mean we have to give up on our own perspectives. We don't have to let go of, that life sometimes is hard. But what it allows us to do is just say that it's hard right now. And that's where I am. And now what do we need to do? Okay. Well, that's it for me today. I love having you all with me. I'm so glad that you made it. Please, let me know if there is a topic that you're wanting to hear about. Next week is a parenting topic, and I have a whole list of things that I would love to talk about, but I haven't made any decisions yet. So if there's a topic that you want to hear about, please feel free to message me or post it in one of my groups. I would love to hear from you and know what would be helpful for you. I really do want these sessions to be helpful. Okay, I hope you all have a good day. Remember to kind of work and practice on shifting that, shifting to a place of acceptance, and let me know how it goes. Okay, bye guys.